Hello and welcome to Rosie's Rise. I have been waiting to do that since I got these earrings, so already this video is a success for me. Welcome to my channel where I try to share specific techniques and information on sourdough bread baking. I am absolutely obsessed with sourdough. I love baking it. I love making it. Same thing, but let's just double it. Talking about it, eating it, the whole shallot. Yes, I meant to say shallot. I just love it all. This week, I'm going to be talking about the step autolyze. Now, some people do it, some people don't. I'm one of the do. And I will share with you how to do it, why you should do it, in my opinion. Some people mix the flour, water, and starter. Some people, like myself, we like to just add the flour and the water, allow it to sit, and then we incorporate our starter and salt. Now, there's various reasons for this. One being that we know our starter, our yeast, is quite acidic in the pH. Now, gluten formation actually favors a more neutral environment, neutral pH. So by adding that starter as part of the autolyze stage, you're creating more of an acidic environment. So it's not to say that gluten won't form, but it's better, in my opinion, to have more of a neutral pH environment. Now with salt, if you add that as part of the autolyzing phase, salt we know actually tightens the gluten, which is what we want, but in my opinion, we want that a bit later on. We want it when we've formed our gluten and now we want to strengthen it. So as part of my autolyzing, I omit the starter and the salt and just mix together the flour and the water. One tip is to save a bit of the water so that when you do add your starter and your salt, it's a bit easier to incorporate rather than trying to incorporate starter and salt into an already mixed dough. Okay, so we've mixed our dough, we've mixed our flour and our water, and our starter and salt, depending on what your style is. But how long do we actually let our dough sit for before we can start doing the folding or the kneading technique? Now, this varies depending on the flour you use. If you're using a strong white flour for your dough, then it can be anything from 10 minutes to 3 hours. If you're using a wholemeal flour, now wholemeal is particularly an interesting one because wholemeal you have your bran. Now bran is quite sharp, as part of its characteristic, it's actually quite sharp. And because it's sharp, it can actually cut your gluten. Now you'll find that when you are baking a wholemeal loaf, especially when it's 100% wholemeal, you'll find that your loaves are quite dense. Now, you know, people like that, some people aren't a fan. The reason it's so dense is because of bran, because of how it can actually cut a lot of the gluten strands. Now, by incorporating the autolyzing step, the autolyze, verb, noun, whatever you want, by incorporating that, you actually soften the bran, and so it's less likely to cut those gluten strands. So in essence, by incorporating that step, you can create a far less dense loaf than you normally would get without it. So because wholemeal has a bran, you can autolyze it from anything between 10 minutes to 5-6 hours. The one flour you need to watch out for is rye flour. Rye flour, the gluten formation is actually considerably different to your standard white or wholemeal. Because of that, I actually advise not doing the autolyze step with rye flour. Now, if you're like myself and you add a couple of grams of rye flour to your wholemeal or your white loaf, then that should be okay. Anything above 30%, so if 30% of your loaf is rye flour, I would actually advise against doing the autolyze step. You actually find it can be more detrimental to your gluten formation than beneficial. Detrimental, beneficial, better. So there you go. That's how you autolyze your loaf. Very simple, very easy, and you know what? As little as 10 minutes, you'll notice a difference. What kind of difference? Oh, I'm glad you asked. So I guess the big question is, does autolyzing your dough make a difference? And if it does, what are the benefits? What are these differences that people claim happens? For me personally, the biggest difference I witnessed, goddamn, this ain't no court of law. Calm down. The main difference I actually saw in my dough was the handling of the dough. I found it far easier to handle. So when I started to allow the dough to rest before I worked it, I found that when I did start to fold it and work with it, it was just far easier to handle. And I found that I didn't have to fold it as much until I got that desired, consistency, once the dough really starts to become much smoother. And because of that, I actually found that my flavor, from my final loaf, was far superior. Now, when I first started to notice this, I did actually question myself. I was like, wait, hold up. We all know that bread is, the beautiful thing about bread is that it has so many different variables, so many different things in the environment, in the ingredients can have an impact on our final loaf. So, I was a bit suspicious? No, what's the word? Skeptical? Skeptical? Oh God, ain't nothing working today. Anyway, I did have to question. I was like, wait, is a flavor change because I started to introduce this step, the autolyzing step? Or is it because, I don't know, maybe my sourdough starter is just totally killing it and it's like, hey mama, I will provide for you today. And so I really wanted to figure out, okay, why is it that my flavor in my dough is just becoming so much better? And when I read into it, I actually found that because introducing the autolyze step promotes gluten formation, it means that you don't actually have to knead it as much, which is exactly what I found. I found that, my dough was easier to handle, it was easier to stretch and fold, and I didn't have to fold it as many times as I normally would have. And because of that, I actually was incorporating less oxygen into my dough. Oxygen is a very reactive element. Very, very reactive element. Extremely reactive. Nah, calm down. But because of that, if you incorporate too much oxygen into your loaf, there's a danger that it will, start to alter the molecules and the structures within the loaf. And actually can have quite a big impact on your flavor, and not in a good way. Now, if you're a home baker that uses a stand mixer, this might be important for you, because if you over mix it, you've incorporated too much oxygen. So by incorporating the autolyzing step, or by adding the autolyzing step to your bread baking, you probably won't have to mix it as long in that stand mixer. So maybe to any stand mixer bread bakers out there, hey, introduce the autolyze. I don't even know how to pronounce this word, but I'm just going with it. I'm just autolyzing it straight, left, right, and center. There you have it, the autolyze step explained. Very easy, very straightforward, as little as 10 minutes, and you yourself may start to notice a difference, Give it a go. If you do, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear how you guys are getting on. If you learned something new, which I hope you did, give this video a like, and if you want to keep learning sourdough techniques, subscribe, stay tuned. I will be sharing one technique each week, and I may even start to incorporate information such as different flours and what different flours do or mean. So stay tuned, there is plenty more to come if I keep on top of it, which I promise to myself that I will. So thank you for watching Rosie's Rise, putting the rise in sourdough.